Afternoon, everybody. We'll take a minute here, let people funnel in, then we'll get started. All right, let's get going. Matthew Vanberg here from Lynxspring. I got Robert Hirsch with me today to talk to you guys about some products that we're really excited about getting you some more information on. It's the Edge, JENEsys Edge 434, XM14IO, and then some updates to current controllers that we covered a little last week with the VAV, and then the new licensing options that make things a little bit more competitive for you guys. So without further ado, as mentioned earlier, this is being recorded. So for posterity, will have access to this after the webinar is complete. Robert, it's all yours. I think you're on mute.
Okay. Hi, Matthew.
Hello.
Hear me now?
We can hear you.
All right. Thank you. And you can see my screen, Edge controller overview.
Yep.
All right, everything's working. Awesome. Okay. Hi, everyone. Today we want to go over some new products and possibly some existing products, but with a new light shine upon them. The new products and these existing products are purposed towards our edge at equipment and standalone systems, terminal units, driving our products, our JENEsys Edge products, closer to the edge, no pun intended. All right, going through these. So right now we'll just, something I'm going to speak of a couple times throughout this presentation, and it's introducing something maybe new to you, but we're identifying these products today as 400 series JENEsys Edge controllers and systems. The Edge 434, it is new. It has never been, it was just recently released. It is aligned with their Edge 534 and its I/O. It's got the 10 digital outputs, 16 UI, and 8 analog output, but it supports where the Edge 534 does not. It supports APC licenses. Okay, APC 3, which is a 68-point and 3 device capacity license, and APC 2, which is a 14-point 2 device license. Something also, and we'll get into this a little bit more clearly later, is that when we think about points and devices on these 400 series, think about what's on the controller. Don't think about what you're going to integrate. The products that we're looking at today are intended to do some heavy lifting, controlling, turning things on and off, controlling temperature, other conditions that the controller might be installed in. The Edge 414, which is not new, continues to be what it is from a input and output standpoint, with the 4 digital outputs, 6 universal inputs, 4 analog outputs. But it now will support the APC 3 license, APC 2 license. Okay. And then the Edge VAV, again, the Edge VAV has been around, but it is now being offered with the APC 1 license. If you can see my cursor here, I'll go over that. Whoop, I'll go back. And it supports the same I/O, including the pressure transducer, and because it is licensed, it supports also predefined VAV applications, including ASHRAE G36 sequences of operations if you need them. In all cases, these products support the spanning tree protocol. They support FOX, BACnet IP, MSTP, Modbus, WebUI, and others. And they're all, in all cases, compatible with some of our edge tools and our turnkey service. And the turnkey service and edge tools were reviewed last week with our VAV, much aligned with the VAV automatically, but manually we can align these other Edge 434 and 414 with those tools as well. All right, moving forward, the Onyxx XM extender modules. What's interesting here is the existing XM34 continues to be used. It is also comes in a Onyxx model, and it also comes in a BACnet model, which are all compatible with the new Series 400 Edge controllers. But what's new is the XM14. The XM14 is only available right now in a proprietary Onyxx model. The BACnet model will be forthcoming, but it's not available yet. In each case, like I said before, the Series 400 devices and points that are supported in those units have to be identified as the Edge or the Onyxx devices and points. So these devices count as a device in those licenses, and the I/O, if used, counts against the I/O or the points in those licenses as well. All right. Okay, so we talked about 400 series so far, but what's the difference between a 500 series and a 400 series Edge controller? When we look at the 500 series, that's our traditional Edge 514 and our Edge 534s. They've been around for a while. Their targets have been smaller buildings, smaller facilities, doing some integrations, possibly being mounted on some large or mid-size equipment or some more complex systems, right? These are larger capacity products with, and the licenses reflect that. What the new APC licenses do is now creates this new model called the 400 series of Edge controllers to our right. And like we just went over, they're reflective in the VAV, the 414, and the 434. So the APC licenses are only available on those pieces of hardware. The applications that they're intended to address, and mind you, these are all fully programmable Niagara controllers, so you could apply them anywhere, but generally those licenses and hardware combined would apply more or less for small to medium-sized equipment, standalone systems, and terminal units. And always our focus is on the points and devices that are on the edge when we're estimating what we need for a particular application. APC is something new that you've not really been exposed to, but all the VAVs and 414s that have been released to date have been with APC without any pending -1, 2, or 3. It was just APC. It had 50 points and 3 devices. Tritium, our provider of Niagara, is unable to really support that license model going further. So we created APC 1, 2, and 3. So the APC unit will eventually be in the live sooner rather than later. But now we'll apply in an a la carte fashion. You buy a 414 or a 434, and you applied APC licenses to it as your applications needed. So the applicability for APC is to create these new 400 series applications. Flexibility in your applications to drive the edge closer to smaller equipment. And obviously, it should be more cost effective. than the previous APC license. So driving a little bit deeper in what an APC is. It stands for Application Programmable Controller. It's an APC license. And I'm going from 3, 2 to 1. The APC 3 is the bigger of the three, of course. And it represents itself by 68 edge points. Those are the hardware points on an edge. And XMs that are coupled with an edge. And 3 total devices. Edges and XMs count as devices. We will go into a little more detail later, but in every case, the APC license on an edge controller supports perpetual software maintenance. And they also enable the licensing schema for a 10-to-1 license on the web supervisor. The web supervisors look at these as a tenth of a device rather than a full device. In each one of these APCs, there is a global capacity, which we refer to many times as our how many devices can I integrate? How many third-party or open system BACnet or Modbus units can we integrate? In APC 3, you can see it supports 32 of those global capacity points and 1 device. So the focus is on hardware. The focus is on hardware devices and hardware points, not so much on the integration of devices and points. APC 2 is just a smaller set of APC 3. It supports 14 edge points and 2 edge devices, or edge plus an XM. All right. So perpetual SMA again. The Edge Lite platform is supported as well. The global capacity to integrate other devices is a little different, 14 points, but 2 devices. An APC1 is not an a la carte device, but it is bundled on our VAV. It also has 14 points, but it supports 1 device. Again, supporting perpetual SMA. And the global capacity is 14 points, 1 device. All right. If your edge points and edge devices are not enough, you can add this IO up or adder to a license, which adds 25 edge points and 1 edge device. And remind me, edge points and edge devices are equivalent with an XM as well. All right. Okay, so what are the offerings we have on our spreadsheet or on our price sheet today? We have new hardware, which is an Edge 434 controller, 414 controller. These are on the price sheet, unlicensed. Okay, there's no license on them. You have to buy a license for it to work, of course. The Edge VAV controller is licensed. It's a bundled solution with the APC1 license, which we do not have available as a separate item. It just comes with the VAV controller. The licenses, then APC3, APC2, as we spoke about earlier, and the optional adder are applied then to the 434 and 414 as your application requires. Options to extend beyond the controllers is your traditional XM34, the XM34B, which is a BACnet device. So that would count against the global capacity, not the edge device or edge points. And the new XM14 extender module. The other options, of course, your 25 points in 1 device adder. And as we talked about last week, our turnkey services for loading stations, addressing controllers, so on and so forth is available to these controllers as well. Case lots are available for the Edge 434 in 12 units, 414 in 18 units, and the VAV in 18 units. If you want to get a pricing perspective on the cases, if you buy a case, you basically get compared to buying 12 individual units, you're only paying for 11, right? And then for the 414, if you bought them individually, you would pay for 17 rather than 18 if you bought a case of them. VAVs are very aggressively priced, so it's a little bit different if you buy a case of those versus the VAVs by themselves. So I encourage you guys to look up your price sheet, reach out to orders@lynxspring.com or contact Eric or the folks in his group to get pricing as needed. All right. Okay. So some of this might be confusing as far as points and devices and the licenses versus the controllers. What I'll try to display to you here is, of course, when you're trying to size your equipment, you're doing a takeoff. And generally for a controller, you're going to want to know how many UI there are, how many digital outputs there are, how many analog outputs there are, so on and so forth. But this is kind of a elementary way of doing it. But with an Edge 434 and an APC license included on it, you have the capacity of adding 68 hardware points and supporting 3 devices. But in the case of just the 434, you're using the max capacity available in hardware is 34. Makes sense? And 1 device. But what happens if we add an XM14? Our available capacity remains the same, but now we can use up to 48 points and 2 devices. We're still underneath our limit here, all right? And then let's go further. Again, we're within our capacity, 62 points and 3 devices, but we extend that one more time with an XM34. Now we're hitting up against our limits of 68 points. So you can see kind of how the licensing model was created in the case of 434. We want to go beyond 34 and the Edge 434. We're going to have to add this adder to the device because we've exceeded our limit of 82 possible points. Now, as you know, you may not have to use all those points. This is if you're using full capacity points. You may need these 2 modules and still work if you're not using all the I/O, right? Now, if you are, just put an adder to it. That increases your available I/O to 93. That's adding 25 points and it's adding another device, okay? Kind of see how this is working out when we size our equipment. An Edge 434 with APC2 license only supports 14 points and 2 devices, all right? By itself, that's not going to work because you exceed if you're going to use more than 14 points on a 434. So it doesn't make sense unless you add the adder that brings you up to 34 points and supports those entirety 34 points of I/O. All right, 14 of Edge 414 can support an APC3. Again, similar to our 434, but he's going to use much smaller point capacity. And when we add more XM14s, you can see how this grows, but we're always within our limit. But suddenly we exceed our device limit, all right? But now we add in the adder, this column here. We increase it to 93 points and 4 devices. So now we're within range to support those 3 XM14s. That probably is suitable for applications that are extendable within a mechanical room that does not exceed the Onyxx network length. Here's a 414 with a XM34. That works using the APC3. And we continue on with a 14 that supports 14 and a 34 on a Edge 414 works. It's within those maximum limits available. Sorry. Here we are now using APC2, which is probably more suitable for a 414. than it is a 434. It has a 14-point limit, 2 device limit, and by itself, it falls within the, if you max it out, all the points, it falls within its limits, right? If we want to add any more hardware I/O, well, we start and we exceed that 14s, you go over it quickly. However, adding your adder gets you within range again, all right? The VAV by itself is supports the APC1, which is a 14.1 device supporting unit. It's supposed to be a standalone device, right? We're not using VAVs to do a bunch of integration, nor are we doing a bunch of integration with 414s or 434s, mind you. But if we had to increase our VAV, we could use an adder, increase it 39 points to 2 devices, and we can support another XM to the unit, all right? Also in the Edge VAV, let me go back here to the Edge VAV, because it does have a global capacity of 14 points in one device, you could integrate a backnet wall sensor as well with the Edge VAV. So these 2 items here, just the Edge XM14 and XM34 IO are represented here. They are 14 and 34 points against the maximum available points in one device against the maximum available devices that are in any one of these APC licenses. So I want to go over that real quickly. It's something that you'll have to get used to because we traditionally, with the 500 series, all those controllers are bundled. A 100, I believe a 5-device 250-point license or 100-point license, it's bundled with the hardware. In this case, you're buying 534 or 434s, and then you're buying the APC3 or APC2 as needed, adding in a 25 up adder if you have to. 414s as well. You're buying the APC3 or the APC2 license, and off to the races you go. All right. Okay. How are we doing on time? My intention was to get this to maybe a half hour. It's probably boring enough for you, but I want to go over some other items, some frequently asked questions that were really good ones that we've been asked before. And this goes to explaining some of the other features that are just inherent with buying our Edge products. When you buy it, how does the Edge affect the web supervisor? Well, all of our Edge controller licenses 150 points or less support what's called a platform feature. And in the platform feature, there's an attribute called Edge Lite 1, which is pretty neat. Edge Lite 1 attributes are in these 4 licenses. Mind you, this one's going to be in the life soon. The 100 point, APC3, APC2, and APC1, they each have this Edge Lite. So in web supervisors that are licensed 4.10 or higher, they have in the Niagara device feature an attribute that says Edge Lite equals device.count of 10. So imagine that if you have a 10 device web supervisor, you can support up to 100 of these Edge devices, okay, under that same 10 device web supervisor license. Pretty cool. That's very directed at the Tritium's licensing schema to support Edge devices. So the volume of Edge devices are expected to go up in these applications, and we do not want to make it preventable from doing that because we're just now overcharging on the web supervisors. So that's a 10-to-1 ratio that you get there. Okay. How does Edge affect the SMA license? We all like dealing with SMA licenses, do we not? Well, as we had in the past, the APC license was perpetual in its support of SMA, meaning that you can upgrade these units without having to purchase the SMA option, all right? So Tritium manages our Edge license using a Lynxspring product model. Within each product models of these Edge licenses, what's called an auto version upgradable functionality, and ours is set to yes, all right? So in these Edge licenses, we support auto version upgradable functions. That's the APC1, APC2, all the new APC licenses, including the smallest of the regular core licenses that we put on Edge, 100 point. All right, here's another question that I thought was interesting. How is a BACnet device that's integrated at the Edge device represented at the web supervisor? Well, if you just focus at the Edge device first, when we integrate a BACnet device, it consumes a global capacity device and it consumes whatever points you integrate from that device, right? So an APC-2 supports 14 points in 2 global devices. So that's how many BACnet devices and points you can support there. From the Edge to the supervisor, the BACnet device is represented within the Niagara driver, okay? Because we are a Niagara device at the Edge. So what is a BACnet point at the Edge is now a Niagara point at the supervisor, which is really cool. And BACnets are represented as Niagara driver supported devices, points and devices, sorry. Finally, only Edge devices represent the web supervisor, and it only consumes a Niagara connection, not consuming all those BACnet devices and points. A couple other items that was interesting questions we've had in the past. Niagara to Niagara connections are free except for supervisor. That is true. So therefore, in Edge 414 and 534, integrating one another is a Niagara connection. So that doesn't consume anything at the supervisory level. In the case where it's just local and you have multiple 414s or 434s or even 534s, those are Niagara connections at the Edge. And that Edge is not subject to those Niagara devices because the global capacity is excluded, all right, as you see here. Is there APC plus? Is the APC plus a point adder the only way to get 2 global devices on Edge 434? Generally, yes. So that's an interesting point because you might be looking at a smaller Edge capacity, but you want to integrate an additional global or BACnet devices. You'd probably use a APC2 in the case where you have to integrate more than one BACnet device. Use the APC2. If your Edge device is in point scope, the adder is available to you as well. Okay, here's the question. For customers who have quotes out for the old Edge 414, I would say also for the old Edge VAV, can we still sell it for their device / point count can't be satisfied with new products? Tritium will, and here's our response. Tritium is deprecating the current APC license. If you recall, that APC license was represented by 50 points and 3 devices. Support will remain for those licenses in perpetuity. They will be on the schedule for updates and all those types of things. However, we will now generate new APC licenses. Right now, our plan is to fulfill all open orders that are existing with the APC, especially those orders that are fulfilling installations where they have been using the APC license already. But APC with APC 1, 2, or 3, they're all compatible with one another. So don't worry about if you have an APC and an APC 3 combined, you're still going to be able to work in the normal Niagara experience. APC 1 only has one Edge connection. That's right, and that's what's on our VAV. And the question was, will the new wall module that Lynxspring is creating take up this connection, and therefore you have to buy an IO adder for an XM module? Answer is no. The wall module does not count as a Edge connected device, nor does it count as a global device. Can we buy unlimited amount of IO adders, allowing us to go beyond the old 50 point on the Edge 414 and VAV? Absolutely, you can do that. You can buy as many as you want. However, the cost for the adder will start to add up, and at some point, the return buying a larger 500 series Edge might be better off than adding all those adders to a 400 series controller. And then, is there a case part number for buying APC? There is no case. Well, if you look in our price sheet, there is no case part number for buying APC2 or APC3 licenses. That is correct. They're all individual priced. Motivation for that is that that's a Niagara licensed part, so we don't have much control over bundling that into a case. However, you do find that the APC1 is bundled with our VAVs, and our VAVs do come in case slots. So that's the option we have there. With that being said, I think we're pretty close at 30 minutes here, and we'll check to see if there's any questions or concerns that you might have. I just want to make sure that you, as Lynxspring business partners, had an opportunity to see what the 434 is. It's new, and the XM14, which is new, and the APC licenses, which are new. And also be able to ask questions about the new revisement of the 414 and its applicability. It's expanded now, and the VAV, which is more driving it closer into a competitive situation with other products is what the goal is there as well.
Got one question. I think it may have gotten covered, but maybe you can elaborate on it a little bit more. It was in regards to connecting a 400 series controller to a JENEsys or Jenny or a 534, and how that licensing works. I believe you covered that, where it doesn't actually take a points away from your JENEsys, but could you highlight that again?
If you look in your JENEsys license or your Edge licenses, there's a global capacity feature that excludes the Niagara driver, which is the capacity that's the FOX communication between Niagara devices. So at that level, at the device level, that capacity limit is none. When you get into supervisory roles, then that capacity starts to be counted.
All right, and I do have a few questions about whether a tool like the sheet you were showing earlier will be available for people to work out the points for their projects, and the answer to that for everybody is yes. We are working on that sheet and getting all the numbers right and make sure the input comes out. You'll put in, what your takeoff numbers are, and it'll output what your options are for controller and points and which licensing structure you want to use. So that'll be ready for you guys soon. We'll have that up on resources. We'll email everybody once that is available. Anybody else have any other questions for Bob right now while we got him on the webinar?
Looking at the Q&A here. Yeah, here's a good one. Is the turnkey service you mentioned last week for the VAV available for other models of the JENEsys Edge controllers? The answer is yes. The difference is that the VAV has our VAV application. And so there's the automated process for us to load VAVs. For these other Edge controllers, there's a service that is available for us to then, really it's a manual process. We're taking your stations if you choose to give it to us. We're taking your IP addressing if and loading it with what you need on it. Whereas the VAV, we have a lot of control over that. We're just looking for configuration information, and it's done pretty quickly. But yes, the answer would be yes. That service is available also with the other controllers.
I would also mention here too, we've got our professional services team has worked on a number of ECAs that is basically a ready-made project that you guys can download on resources. Not exactly the same thing, but just something I wanted to highlight that you guys can go take a look at. Edge-centric applications that are just a packaged application ready to load on. So most of your projects done right there at the get-go, and we're working on more of those for you guys. Hey, Robert, can you bring up the case lot screen again? Give everybody a chance to take a look at those one more time.
Flat screen again. Let's see here. Where is that? Is it these here?
Yep.
Yeah, there's three available case lots, 434, 414, and the VAV. Was there a particular question around that?
Just to highlight again so people can see the availability.
Right, and that's in the our spread or our price sheet is updated with these case lots. Also with our price sheet really resembles everything that's on here as well. So I just wanted to, briefly recognize what these things are availability. There's more detail in our price list, but the case lots are shown there as well. And there's an economic advantage of buying a case over individual units. Obviously, if you need that many of them.
And of course, this is just an addition to our already fabulous line of JENEsys Edge controllers that you guys can leverage for offering operating value to your end users, streamlining multiple operations, open systems, open standards, increasing profitability, preserving existing legacy systems, real-time data, improved energy control, on and on. All the same things you would expect are in these new products, and we're just going to keep improving them for you. If you have any more questions for us, go ahead and email your sales representative from Lynxspring or hit us up at sales@lynxspring.com and we'll get you in touch with the right person. And Bob also offered up his direct email if you've got any questions about these point systems. It's a little bit much off the front end, so anything we can help you clarify, we will. And other than that, I will give you guys back some time of your day, and we really appreciate you joining us and taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
See you, Bob.